Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see right here, we got the two 450 side by side in the driveway. So I was thinking, neither one of them have been run in a while. The last time I ran the YFZ was at the last dune trip. That was probably going on a month ago. And then the KFX, it's probably over a month actually, now I think about it. KFX, that's been sitting for a while. So it needed to be run. So I figured, what more fun to have, if I got to run them both anyway, is to do a little back-to-back video. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to take the YFZ, I'm going to do a little loop in the desert by my house, then I'm going to come back, I'm going to grab the KFX, I'm going to do the same loop, and then when we get done, we'll talk about the differences between the two. You know, there's obvious differences between the two, aside from them being both 450s. They're incredibly different machines, besides just being two manufacturers. So we'll get into that, and what I actually feel. So it's different when you ride them. You know, you've ridden both different times. When you ride them back to back, you really get a difference in the feeling and the characteristics and all that stuff, the handling, the power, all that. So how they handle terrain. So I checked all the air pressure. They're all at 5 psi front and back on both bikes. So we're going to go take them on a loop. We'll get on the YFZ first, then we'll do the KFX, and then we'll talk about the differences between the two. Feels good to be on the quads, man. Haven't been on them in a while. Got some beautiful weather today, 80 degrees. Got a couple really hot weeks, so I was meaning to do this a couple weeks ago, man. It was just too hot. YFZ is just so stable feeling, man. Like, you just feel like you can go faster and faster and faster on it. You know, it just makes you want to go faster, which can be dangerous because you can ride over your skill level. You know, you got to really be conscious of that. Motor just comes to life so fast. It's been a while since I rode the KFX, so that'll be fun. This is really just off camber whoops, this whole little section here, so it's just a ridge line with whoops on it. It's hard to see on the camera, tell that what it is, but my shifter where I like it. I had raised it after I first got it home. Went to the dunes with it, and it was a little too high. Kept hitting neutral. So I lowered it 1 notch. Feels great now, and got it right where I need it. Won't be a big loop because we're going to do both bikes. I don't want to make the video too long, but it'll be enough to see the distinctions between the two, or feel at least. The standout thing with the YFZ is it just keeps pulling, and every year it just pulls and pulls and pulls. It doesn't have a ton off the bottom. You know, if you're from a stop, you really need first gear. Take it off in second. You know, you can feel the lack of low end. Whereas, like, you know, opposed to like a quad like a Raptor or something, when I say low end, I mean coming off those, you know, you can take off in third gear almost in those things. We got a little bit of a slow section here. See how she does. A little narrow for the YFZ. It's definitely a downside to it. You're riding the tight stuff. It's a really wide machine. Somebody groomed us over here for the dirt bikes. Sorry guys, I'm ruining it on you, but I'll be coming back here with my bike too. KFX. Definitely some obvious differences right off the get-go. First thing is the steering, obviously. It's pretty well known that there's not a lot of caster in the stock geometry on KFXs, so it's a little darty in the sense that the bike's, you know, very responsive, quick to your steering input. So as soon as you touch the bars, it's moving. So you really got to be conscious of that. Some people will call that twitchy. I wouldn't characterize it as that. I would just say it's got a very instant steering input, reaction to your input, and that's just because of the amount of caster. I don't think it's twitchy in the sense. I don't think it's twitchy. I wouldn't characterize it like that, because if you're just riding, it doesn't feel twitchy. It's just that it's going to react faster and more to your input and your steering, if that makes sense. A steering stabilizer definitely would be a welcome addition to this one. The YFZ didn't notice that to even need one. Okay. Other obvious is the seat. The YFZ 450 seat is super cush. The KFX, if you're just riding the KFX, you probably would be like, okay, seat feels fine. But if you come off another bike onto it, you're like, wow, it feels like a board. So that's something. The other thing is you're doing a lot more shifting on the KFX. And it's not due to power, it's just due to the way it's the gearing. So the transmission is much more close ratio transmission than the YFZ. Like first, second, third on this thing, it almost feels the same. You know? It's not it's not as spread out, and even fifth gear, it's not as tall. You're in top gear on this thing. Quick, watch. Yeah, I'm in fifth gear right there. Whereas the YFZ, you can kind of ring it out in third and fourth. I would never get out of fourth there. I would never touch fifth gear. Another obvious, I know I didn't talk much on the YFZ, but when you ride the second one, it's when you feel the differences. The motor on the KFX is much quieter, sounds more solid. Not that it is, but the Yamaha motor makes a racket. It's a noisy engine. It's just the way it is. The Raptor 700 engine's the same way. See, you can turn fast on this bike. It stays flat, but the steering gives way on you. You got to really be holding on to the steering. This is like a go-kart, this machine. Stays flat, but man, is it responsive to your steering input. You know, one false move and you're going to be over the bars because you're going to roll it. So I think a steering stabilizer would be a welcome addition to this one. And put it on a stiff setting so you're not, it's kind of counteracting you if you accidentally, you know, give one of those. The steering's a lot looser too. Could be because the machine's older. Obviously it's an old machine, although it's, you know, virtually low hours, very good condition, but still older. But it's just the characteristics of geometry, and that's pretty much common knowledge. Everybody says that about these. See, I'm maxed out in the top gear right now. Doesn't have the top speed of the YFZ because it's just spinning out fast in fifth gear because the gearing is so close ratio, which is a bummer if you're just doing a lot of big open stuff and you want to you know, stretch it out a little bit and not be just revving the hell out of the motor. I'm going to take it through this section here. We'll save the rest of the comparisons for when we get back. One thing with this, on that section right there, I was in first gear on the YFZ. I was in second on this one. I could have been probably third because of a couple of reasons. The gearing being so low. Also, there's a little bit more bottom end on the KFX. In my opinion, that's how it feels to me. It's a little more low end forgiving. All right, definitely some differences here. Suspension too, big time. Both goods and bads, so. So you don't have to downshift this as much in these situations going slow as the YFZ. You do. Close the gearings closer, and because I think it's a little more torquey on the bottom. I think it's just that's where the power band is on this bike. Low, mid. YFZ is mid to high. All right, guys, let's talk about them. So let's talk about the similarities first. And that's a short list. They're both 450s. That's pretty much where it ends. They are both distinctly different machines, built for two distinct different purposes, I think. So let's talk about some positives of each. So in terms of features, you know, obviously both headlights, taillights. They're both 450s. Controls are similar. They both have a similar parking brake. On the Yamaha, you know, you guys have used to seeing these. It comes back. It's on the same as on the Raptor. Keys up on the right. Keys up on the right on the Kawasaki. Controls are very similar. And the parking brake is similar. It just folds down this way. So you have lights, idiot lights on this, fuel, reverse, neutral, and coolant. You have all that on that except for reverse. You don't have a reverse light, and it's just on one little screen on the Yamaha. So everything would light up right there. There's obviously no reverse on the Yamaha, so that's an edge for the Kawasaki. Kawasaki has reverse. Both bikes are fuel injected, but this one is the only one that has reverse. Yamaha does not have reverse on theirs. Give you a good shot of them from the back. So the other thing different about the Kawasaki, there's no idle adjustment on the Yamahas. There is a automatic valve that adjusts the idle on the throttle body on the Yamahas, and on the Kawasaki you have a knob, and it also acts as a cold start knob. You probably can't see it, but it's right back there. It's right on the throttle body. It's a black knob. You pull it out when you cold start it. You don't have to do anything with the Yamaha. Just fire it up, let it idle, let it warm up. With this machine, the one thing with Kawasaki is when it's a cold start, and this bike hasn't been started in weeks, so I started it, and then I did have to use that cold start because it'll want to bog down and stall. You can't touch the throttle. You got to let this bike idle and come to temperature, get warm. and then it's fine. And it looks like we lost a couple screws, which is a common thing on these Kawasaki's. Fortunately, I do have extras. You lose screws on these things for the fender screws. This is very common. They come out. Why, I don't know. But I think I'm going to, next two I put in there, put a little Loctite. But, so those are really the differences in terms of features. Other than that, they're the same. The way you would work reverse on the Kawasaki is, you know, if you're down in first, push it in, pull in the clutch, obviously. Push that in, click down, and then you're in reverse. Yamaha has no reverse, so it works the same as if you're familiar with putting a Raptor 700 into reverse, only it's right there at your thumb, which is really nice. If you're in the woods, you want to pop it in reverse quick, you know, it's right there. You don't got to reach for a knob. You don't got to reach for nothing. So that's really nice, really cool. Headlights are both halogen, you know, nothing to write home about on either bike. They're okay. Here's the initial big things I noticed as soon as you get on them. Obviously, so the seat on the Yamaha is going to be way softer. I mean, it's very soft and cush. You know, the seat on the Kawasaki is firm. It's got a little give. You know, it's not going to kill you, I don't think. But you could get a little monkey butt on a long day on this bike if you're sitting a lot. If you just ride in this machine, you probably be like, it doesn't feel bad. You know, it's better than a dirt bike seat because it's wider, spreads you out, the weight. But it's like a firm dirt bike seat, but it's got the width of a ATV seat. So that's how I would characterize the Kawasaki seat. The Yamaha is very soft, very plush. I think in terms of rider position though, so here like on the Yamaha, the seat's very soft, right? That's very nice. And when you hop over here on the Kawasaki, seat's very firm, and you're a lot more on top of the Kawasaki. Now, it's funny to say that because that's actually how I would characterize a YFZ to a Raptor, is you're a lot more on top of the YFZ. You're not sitting in it, where in the Raptor, you're kind of sitting in it. It's even more accentuated on the Kawasaki. You're really on top of it. Part of it is the seat's a little firmer, but the saddle is just, the bars are higher stock from your rider triangle. So pegs to seat to bars, it's a little more spread out on the YFZ. On the Kawasaki, it's a little bit smaller. So you're kind of sitting on top of it. You feel like the bars are lower. So that's something you notice when you're sitting on it. Power-wise, they both got plenty of power. It's the gearing that's the biggest thing. And this has a close ratio transmission. This has I would characterize it a wide ratio transmission. I don't know what Yamaha says it is, but it's not as spread out as a Raptor 700 transmission, but it's a lot wider and more spread out than the Kawasaki is. You can click this up into fifth gear, whatever it is, 5-speed, and really just, cruise at a high rate of speed if you're going down a fire road or something and not having the motor wound up and screaming. The Kawasaki, you're going to be in top gear trail riding if you're riding in the desert, because you're going to get up to that gear. If you want to cruise at a decent RPM, you're going to have to get up into it, and even then it'll start revving out. It doesn't have a tall fifth gear on this machine. This might benefit from a bigger front sprocket. Like go up a tooth in the front. I'd actually been flirting with the idea of running 22s on this for the desert in the rear, and 22s on the front rather than 20s in the rear. That may help with the gearing situation for desert riding. Suspension wise, it's funny. The YFZ handles better. It's wider. The steering's not as herky-jerky. So, you have to be deliberate with the YFZ. Like, you turn it, and it's going to go where you turn it. But with the Kawasaki, if you just breathe on the bars, it's going to move. You really got to watch your input on the Kawasaki. Rider error can really come into play big time on that machine. I can see that being the case for an inexperienced rider. If they're trying to push the limits on that machine, I think you can get hurt, because the steering is a lot more herky-jerky, in the sense that, you know, it's twitchy, like people would call it twitchy. I wouldn't call it twitchy, because to me, twitchy is if you're going straight, it feels like it wants to, you know, go to side. It doesn't feel like that. It tracks very straight, but as soon as you touch the bars, it goes, you know, really quick input. So the Yamaha, it's stable, it's super wide, and you can hammer into a turn. Never feels like it wants to come on two wheels. The Kawasaki, strangely enough, even though it's a lot narrower than the Yamaha, the center of gravity is very low on it. The weight distribution feels great, and it feels also very, very stable, even though it's significantly narrower than the Yamaha. Gearing, though, with the Kawasaki is nice coming into a turn, because you don't have to downshift into as low a gear. So let me explain. So like if I'm in fourth gear, say on both bikes, and I'm coming into a turn, and I need a little bit more R's. If I can just downshift one, go drop it down to third on the Kawasaki, and then come out of that turn and hammer it. Where the Yamaha, I really need to get it down to second for it to pull out of the corner, because you got to get the R's up a lot more. On this machine, because the first three gears and even fourth, they're all so close, you don't have to downshift as many, so that is a plus for the gearing being that way. But, you know, for open riding, it's a detriment, I would say. But suspension, other than the width, stability, they're both very stable. This is a lot wider, a little bit more stable, I would say, than the Kawasaki, mainly because of the steering is a lot more, is a little bit more stiffer, and the width, it just feels more stable from the steering aspect of it. In terms of like it coming up on two wheels and stuff on you, neither machine give me that feeling. I'm used to riding Raptor 700s, I guess, so both of these machines are very stable compared to those. But YFZ obviously has the edge on that. If you're going to ride in the woods, though, tight woods, back east, I think the Kawasaki's the machine. And for a couple of reasons. One, the gearing is going to work better in those situations in the woods. I think it's a little bit more of power band is more low to mid range. It does, you know, you can scream this motor, but it doesn't have a lot on top. These are both bone stock machines too, by the way. Neither one of them have any power mods. They're both stock airboxes, stock exhaust, stock tuning. So this machine stock likes the low revs to mid RPMs. This machine likes to be in the mid RPMs, live in the mid RPMs, and then scream it wide open. It loves it. So mid to top end, this motor, low to mid, Kawasaki motor. Kawasaki motor is significantly quieter though. The Yamaha motors sound like a bag of marbles. They're all like that. They run great. They last forever. They're very reliable, durable motors. But they are definitely a little bit more of a chatterbox than the Kawasaki engine. Sounds very tight. Sounds very quiet. Sounds good. The exhaust note is a little bit better on the Kawasaki too. Stock for stock. You know, so if you leave in your machine stock, if you can find a stock Kawasaki anymore these days, I got lucky with this one. Their exhaust note is a little bit better on that. Suspension wise, going back to that in terms of like bump absorption, it's funny. They each have an edge. I would say the Kawasaki's better with the little small chattery trail junk. Like you got some washed out sections, some rock, some juttery ground, some washboard, little small stuff. The Kawasaki's a little bit softer. It takes that stuff, you don't feel it as much. The Yamaha is a lot firmer. And then in that one little section we did where kind of little flat, there's a little flat landing off that little plateau. That's where the Yamaha's better suspension is. If you're jumping it, if you get any air under it, they both will take the jumps nicely. The Yamaha flat lands better. So if you flat land something, you almost feel like you can't bottom out that suspension. Whereas I feel like with Kawasaki, it's softer. You could probably find the limits of it a lot sooner than you would the Yamaha. I haven't found the limits of either. I have very limited, only a few hours on each machine since I've gotten them. I have more hours on the Yamaha than I do the Kawasaki, but that is something I would say is a difference between a suspension. And that's why it goes back again why I think the Kawasaki's better for a woods bike. If you're riding in the woods, get a steering stabilizer, and this machine will be awesome for that. For one, you have reverse. Two, the suspension's a little bit softer. I have both suspensions, by the way, so you guys know, a little bit softened up from stock settings. So they're both it's kind of a neutral playing field in that regard. Both of them stock settings, I softened them up from there on since I initially bought them. So, but for the woods, I think that takes the small little stuff. It's going to take the roots, the ruts better. The suspension is just a little bit more compliant when you're going slow. When you're going slow in the Yamaha, the suspension's firmer. This bike likes to go fast. The Kawasaki can go fast, but it is a little bit more comfortable when you're going slow versus the Yamahas. So if you're going in tight wood stuff, a lot of trail riding, I think the Kawasaki's the bike for you. If you're doing a lot of open desert stuff, dunes, all that stuff, the Yamaha's the machine. MX track, obviously, Yamaha's the machine. Both can't go wrong. Also depends on what you can find out there. Obviously, you can still buy new Yamahas. Kawasaki's you cannot. They haven't made these things in years. And I got lucky to find this one. This is like a very clean, all original 2008. So it's even got the original tires on it. So that was probably hurting me a little bit today in the back-to-back because, not much traction with those front tires. Stock front tires balded pretty much, Tread's got nothing left on them. The rubber's a little bit hard. So, but enough that you can feel the differences. The two totally different bikes. If you're looking at these two, the first thing I would decide is what can you get, how much money you want to spend. Can you find a clean Kawasaki? It's getting harder and harder to do that. There are still parts available for them, so if you can find a clean one, there are parts out there for them still. New OEM stuff in stock at places. But if you're doing a lot of open stuff, open desert, fast riding, if you're going to hit tracks, if you're going to do a lot of dunes, I would get the Yamaha. If you're going to do a lot of woods, tight stuff, you want to putt around a little bit more, not have to ride so hard, get the Kawasaki. I think Kawasaki would probably be better for that type of person. If you can do a lot of sitting though, maybe you might want to do something with the seat. It's a little bit firmer. Doesn't bother me because I'm used to riding the dirt bikes these days, and the dirt bike seats are about as firm as these, but they're a lot narrower, so they really kill your rear end. This is about as firm as the dirt bike seat, but it's a lot wider, so, but when you're coming off a machine like this, where the seat's like a pillow, this is really soft, you feel the difference, obviously. Again, both good machines, both 450s. They're both sport quads, so, you can't go wrong right there. Sport quads. Let's save the sport quads. And, yeah, man, that's it. A little back-to-back fun action for you. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned a little something. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, leave them in the comments below. Try to get back to you as soon as possible. So, Joe at Odyssey Off-Road. Click on the links in the video description to help support the channel. Merch store is down below as well. Buy yourself some merch, and we'll see you guys in the next video.